So, oh, what day is it today? October
21st.
21st. So today is October 21st, and this is Michelle, and I'm interviewing Faith Johnson. So Faith, can you tell us how you got into longshoring?
Well, it was a number of years ago. They did mass hiring. They put out about 1,000 applications, and I got one of the 1,000 applications. And it took me 6.5 years before I was able to actually get in with that application.
So how did you hear about the mass hiring?
Well, my husband's a longshoreman. My father-in-law is a longshoreman,
Yeah.
so...
And 6.5 years just to start working. Why did it take that long?
Well, work has a big factor in how much work there is, in how many people you need to have down there. And work increased, and so they realized that they needed to bring in more people. And that's really, in essence, how it happens, right? Once the work goes beyond what we're able to supply, then you need to hire more people.
Yeah. And did you hear about longshoring before? Before meeting your husband or...
No, because I'm a prairie girl. I didn't know what a longshoreman was until I met him.
Yeah.
And then when I met my future husband, he explained what his dad was, and that's how I heard about longshoring.
Yeah, and was he a longshoreman at that time when he was telling you about his father?
My husband, no.
Yeah.
No, we met in high school.
Yeah.
And you don't longshore in Alberta.
Yeah. And what made you want to try it out?
Well, I'm pretty game to try a lot of different things. I know it's a good career. It's a flexible life, and I think that's a big part of it. And my husband really enjoys his job, and it's nice to see that. And so I thought I'd give it a try. It's a tough job, but I have enjoyed it so far.
So when you first did your application, how long had your husband worked for?
When I first got my application, oh boy, he must have been down there.
Or what year was it?
17 years, I guess he'd been down there before I started.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what year was it when you got your application?
I got my application in 2005. 2005, yeah.
And then so you didn't start working till 2011?
2010.
2010, yeah. And so I guess you knew what you're going to get yourself into because...
people can tell you stories about what it's like, but until you're actually down there, we could tell you all sorts of stories about this is what we do and that's what we do, but until you actually do it, and it's different. I mean, it's changed a lot since Dean was a longshoreman. They used to do things differently, and even when my husband Shane, when he went through, things were different. We do things, it's, a lot more machinery now than there was then, Yeah.
And I guess... did you go through a training process? Any formal training?
Yes, they give you formal training. They teach you how to do, and again, it's changed again now because there's a new process now. But when I went through, they did some testing, and you do some training on lashing. You do ship training like on logs and on steel and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And can you tell me about your first job?
My first job was stackers. It wasn't really exciting. Stackers is basically putting chunks of locking metal into bottom of cans so that they can go on the vessel so that they don't fall off.
Cans as in containers.
Containers, yeah. That's what we call them, cans.
Yeah. And did you have to work in a gang to do that?
Yeah, you have a partner. You always have a partner when you're doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So that was actually my first job. My first job was pretty good for my first job.
Yeah. And were you with someone, was your partner more senior than you or also new?
Actually, my partner was also new, and he actually trained at the same time as I did. Just so happened to work out that way. Yeah.
And so was that a good experience, your first job?
It was definitely a good way to start my career doing stackers versus, you know, a job that's a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, and which board were you on when you first started?
T
board.
Yeah.
And how often in a week would you get work? Or in a month?
Now you're going on my memory here. I honestly, it really varied because it's seasonal. So some months you work more than others. So you can't really, at that time you couldn't really say, well, I worked this many days a week, because it really is seasonal. In the summer you're busier because a lot of people take holidays. In the winter, like around Christmas time, you work a lot more. But January, February, it slows down. So I don't really have a... But we never had it difficult. Not like the generations before us. We've been very fortunate since my group of hiring came down there. We've been very fortunate with the amount of work we've had.
Yeah, so there wasn't any work droughts or...
Not for us.
Not for us,
Not since 2010. But the ones, even within that 1,000 that trained before we did, because they broke us into groups, the 750 before me, they had a time where it was really hard and they had barely any work.
Yeah.
And then when we came down, we've been very lucky.
Yeah. And why would you say, what has made you guys really lucky that there hasn't been any work droughts?
It's just there's been so much commodity coming in and out of the country. Is in essence what it is. And we've expanded, you know, more shipping lines and stuff like that.
Yeah. When you your first cohort, how many people were training with you and then actually started working?
Well, our group, they broke us into subgroups, and there was about 250. I don't know the numbers that came through of that 250.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure.
Yeah. And how many of those around 250 were women and men? Or like the percentage-wise?
The percentage of women is quite low.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have exact numbers.
Yeah.
But it is quite low.
Quite low.
Yeah.
And when you're first going to enter, start working, does it make you feeling kind of worried that you're one of the few women working on the waterfront?
No. Well, I think they said, I seem to recall I've heard 10 to 12% women down there now.
Yeah.
So there was women that have gone before that have paved the way. There is women members.
Yeah.
There's a number of them now.
Yeah.
So they've paved the way.
Yeah.
Right, and each generation of women that comes down there, I think they make it just a little bit easier.
Yeah.
And
you mean easier as in the social acceptance of women working?
I think in that you're not alone.
Right.
It's not social acceptance. That's never been an issue for me. I don't know if other women have experienced that.
Yeah.
But from my perception, that's not been an issue.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And what terminals have you worked at?
I've worked at the auto terminal. I've worked at Fraser Surrey Dock, and I've worked at Deltaport.
Deltaport.
And that's the mega container port.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you go to different jobs each job you get, or do you go to different terminals as well, or has it been pretty consistent for you? When
I started, it would be either Fraser Surrey or Deltaport for the most part.
Yeah.
Now I am most of the time at Deltaport. I would say it's been consistent Deltaport over the last number of months as well, because I have additional training as well as my basic labor training.
And do you mean ratings?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what type of ratings do you have?
I'm a checker at Deltaport.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's what I do 99% of the time now.
So what does a checker do?
Oh, well, our job is to, when a gantry is loading containers to the vessel, we make sure the containers that are going on are the correct containers. We also make sure when we're taking containers off that they get sent onto bomb carts so that they're taken out to the yard. We make sure that the yard is all updated. Wow, we do so many things. We have truck gates. So the trucks come in and we make sure that the trucks are brought into the yard. We check the cans, that kind of, the exterior of the cans, not the interior. Yeah. That's customs job. But we do the exterior of the cans, and cans going out of the dock. So we make sure that every can is accounted for.
Yeah.
Where it is in the yard, its location, that kind of stuff.
So it's like inventory and like logistics.
I guess, yeah. Anyway, inventory and data entry.
Yeah.
We do a lot of that.
Yeah. And when you checking, are you working with someone else or?
Most of the time, it depends on what job you have. Like, there's so many different categories of what we do. Okay. Like you have a gantry checker, you have a pre-gate checker, you have a canopy checker, you have different checkers in the yard. So the yard checkers, they have a certain area that they work, but there's a bunch of other yard checkers.
Okay.
If you're working as a gantry checker, you're the only checker up there, but you're working with a gantry, you're working with bob carts, and you're working with foremen as well. So it just depends. If you're working in the canopy or the pre-gate, usually there's somebody there with you all the time. Like there's a number of people working at the same time.
So are you still part of a gang?
No, the gang system has changed a lot. Yeah, you don't keep. They used to keep the same gang, which was a really neat system because you knew those people all the time. It's different now. If you get dispatched, if I get dispatched to Fraser, Surrey, I will get dispatched into a gang, and I'll get say slings or a holdman or a dockman, and you're sort of part of a gang, but it's not always the same people. Actually, it's not often the same people. You generally now work with the people that are around you on your board, whatever board you're on.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I guess because you work with so many different people, do you know each other well?
You get to know people. If you work a lot of your rating, you get to know a lot of people in your rating.
Okay.
Which are people from T-board to members, because every rating has people across the boards. So you get to know people that way. You get to know people as well when you're having to do labor.
Yeah.
And you want to know those people.
You mean like face to face?
Face to face. And you're talking. I mean, you're sitting there for 8 hours, doing sometimes really tough jobs.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. What type of tough jobs are there? Or the ones that really stick out to your mind that are, exceptionally tough?
Every day can be different. You could do down below on steel and it can be a really easy job, or you can do down below on steel and you can't wait for that day to end. Yeah. I've been down below on steel when it's minus whatever temperature, the snow's coming down, the steel's slippery, it's really cold, and you're soaking wet, and you just want to go home. Yeah. But there are other days you go down there, it's beautiful, everything's going smoothly. So, it can really vary. I've had great shifts lashing, but I've had shifts lashing where I walk out of there and go, I just want to go to bed. So it really can vary from day to day. It varies from ship to ship. It varies from condition to condition.
There's also, there's so many variables involved.
There is, yeah. Weather plays a huge variable in there. When it's, the rain's pouring down. I've even stackers, it's been pouring rain in the winter, and it's coming down at an angle. You're all in your rain gear and as warm as you can be, but you're still cold right to the bone, right? Because it's an outdoor job.
Yeah.
But the nice thing is you're doing a different job all the time.
Yeah.
Right? It's not the same thing. Even if you're doing the same type of job, it's not going to be the same the next day.
Yeah.
Right? You might be working with different people, different foremen. The conditions of the weather might be different. It's such a variety of a job. It's really neat to be able to know that you're going to the job, even in checking, and be doing something different.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and I'm guessing sometimes work can also be good or bad depending on your gang, right?
Yes, yeah. Sometimes that can make or break it, depending on who you're working with. Definitely.
Yeah, or foremen.
Yeah, sometimes that can have an effect too. Yeah, some foremen are different than others. Yeah. Yeah, very definitely.
So, when you first started, today, do you still I guess like you mentioned you have a checker rating, but prior to that, did you do a variety of jobs still?
Well, even now, I'll do a variety of jobs when there's not much checking. right? If there's not, basically it's the number of jobs that come to the hall that they dispatch. And so if there's enough checkers, I'll get that first because that goes before labor. And then, but when laboring, yes, it still varies when I get labor. It can be anything, like I said, from hold to slings to lashing to stackers to hatch tender. You know, there's a lot of variety of different jobs that you can do down there.
So I'm trying to understand the system. So those who have ratings get dispatched first.
Yes, rated jobs are dispatched first. Yeah.
And then is there a hierarchy of which ratings you have?
Yes.
That go first?
Yeah, gantry or topside is the number one rating. So topside being any of your gantries, any of the machine operators that load and unload cargo.
Yeah.
Those are the number one jobs that go up.
Yeah. So why did you decide to have the rating of a checker?
Well, you have 3 entry-level ratings that you can take. Yeah. And it just was the one that most appealed to me. I don't really have a specific reason. The other ones are multi and lift truck or bomb cart and lift truck. And I've enjoyed checking. I mean, and it's nice that there's a variety because not everybody likes the same thing.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah.
Because then that would cause a problem.
Because if you're, I mean, even if you're like a bomb cart, you're in a machine, you know, you're still doing like the same type of movements and...
every day. Yeah. So, some people have multi-ratings, right? But I just have the one currently. So.
Yeah. And I guess when you got the rating and made it much easier for you to...
It gave me more work opportunity. Yeah.
And how does one decide, okay, I want a rating? What happens?
Well, every year they give a sign-up where you can, you know, and they say, what rating training would you like? You aren't necessarily going to get what you sign up for. Okay. But you just sign up for what you'd like to try and then, you know, because it does go by seniority.
Oh, I see. I see. Yeah.
So.
And will your, is there a seniority within the checking, being a checker? Like, are there some jobs that require someone to have a lot of experience checking?
No. Once you're a checker, you can do any of the checker rated jobs.
Yeah. Cool. So I get the gang system has changed a lot.
Yes.
Can you talk about what types of gangs there are right now on the waterfront?
Well, they've done, I mean, you still have, in essence, when you're at Delta Port, you have 6-man gangs. Basically, you have 4 lashers and two stackermen. And then when you're working, say, down below on steel, you've got 4 holdmen and 2 slingmen. And when you're working on logs, you've got 4 boommen and 2 holdmen. But it's not the same people every day. I mean, when you're on logs, if you get dispatched for logs, you'll be in the same gang all week.
Okay. Is that a week job?
Not necessarily. It's per shift. It depends on how long that log ship is there.
Oh, right.
So if the log ship's there 9 days, I don't think they go that long. But let's say it's there 9 days. So you're 9 days with that same gang. Unless somebody books off or whatever and they replace that person.
Right.
But you're with that same person.
Yeah. But so compared to when Dean worked, there was a lot of face-to-face interaction and working with that same gang maybe 40 years. Is there do you feel like there's still like kind of like a very social aspect to work, or has that changed now since people now work with more machines?
No, it's very definitely a social atmosphere. Yeah. It's changed. It's evolved as it needs to.
Yeah.
Right? Because the systems change, but no, there's still a lot of social interaction because you still have lunchtime and breaks and because people can do a different job every day. You meet new people all the time. There's a lot of us down there, so it's very definitely social.
Yeah. So, since you've started working in 2010, are there still people you meet that you've never met before? Or have you kind of met most people working at 502?
No, you definitely still meet people that you've never met before.
Yeah.
Because people, I mean, they're changing. Because we also, West Shore is part of what we do as well, but West Shore, and so we get some people going from the hall there. You have people that come back from there.
Okay.
No, you meet people all the time. It's just the nature of our job and the number of people and different shifts. We got 3 different shifts, right? So some people tend to stick to the same shift all the time.
Yeah.
And so then you don't see them.
Right.
And then suddenly they'll come on to whatever shift you happen to be on. And then it's like, oh, I've never met you before. Oh, well, I've been down here for 15 years. Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. So, no, you still meet people all the time. And then, of course, new people. We had new people come a number of years ago, and we've got new people coming in again now. So, more people to meet.
Yeah. I was going to ask you a question. I think I forgot. But what types of social activities do you do on at the local? I guess just chatting. I guess if you're working.
Well, no. I mean, we've got our dispatch hall.
Yeah.
It's where we go to get dispatched. Right. So you spend quite a bit of time in there, especially when you're first starting, because you have to go. If you're doing labor, you're going to the hall every day.
Right.
Right. So you're sitting in. Yes, a big part of it is the social, verbal aspect of it, where you're sitting there chatting. But we have a picnic and we have Christmas parties and stuff like that. So there's a lot of opportunity for social within there.
Yeah, and can you tell me what your experience like was first going to the Union Hall before dispatch?
My first time?
Yeah.
It's a bit overwhelming because it takes you a while to get used to what the dispatcher is saying. There's so many people in the hall at one time, right? Like it's, you have a couple hundred people in there at one time. So, and they're all talking and the dispatcher's talking. So you're listening very careful to make sure you hear your name.
Right.
Because sometimes, and then there's other people that have the same last name as you and they call you out by last name. So you have a number of people there with the same last name. You go, was that me? Was that me? I don't know if that was me. So it's a bit overwhelming when you first walk in because it's loud and you don't know what you're listening for. You don't know what you're doing and stuff like that. But you get used to it. It just becomes like, oh yeah, that was me, and off you go.
Yeah. So does the dispatch have like a megaphone or something? Because it's so loud.
There is a PA in there,
okay.
And people do tend to take it down to a dull roar when the dispatcher does start to talk.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
but I'm sure they start with A board first, right? And then they kind of.
Well, they start with members first,
right?
But they do it according to they do the ratings first. So
right.
The first thing they do is topside, like the gantry and whatnot, and they do that first, and then the checkers and whatnot. Through the members. And then while they're doing the rated jobs and they're pulling the different plates from the different boards to make sure all those jobs are full, they're also at the same time, they're multitasking back there. They're talking to the members, finding out which labor jobs they want. And so then once they have the jobs filled, then they start calling them out. And then, but it just takes time to listen and know when they're going to call stuff out.
Yeah. And when you walked into the hall, do you think people knew that you were new?
Oh, you can tell when people are new.
Really?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You can tell when people are new. You do get, even if you've never met some of these people, you see the same faces.
Yeah.
And so while you may not have met them yet, you know when a face is new and you can tell people walk in differently when they're new than when they're not, because it's so many things to take in at once when you go to your first dispatch.
Yeah, and
so you can tell.
So I guess there's bodily cues.
Yes.
And yeah. Maybe a little more frigid and look a little bit nervous.
Yeah. I mean, some people walk in a little bit more confidently than others, but for the most part, you can tell who's new, and they're faces that you haven't seen. And you, like I said, you get used to seeing certain faces, and you go, okay, I've not seen that person before.
Okay, and would people, talk that? Is it really casual? Would people talk to a new person like, hey?
Oh, yeah.
So it's a very friendly...
We're a pretty social bunch.
Yeah.
We talk to a lot of people. Yeah.
Since, your husband's a longshoreman, or are you known as Shane's wife?
Well, when I first went down there, my whole aim was not to go in as Shane's wife.
Yeah.
Because anything that I would do would reflect on him, and it was new to me. So unless people asked me, I didn't volunteer the information.
Okay.
Yeah. If people asked me, I always told them, yes, I'm Shane's wife. And of course, some people, because Shane has been down there so long, some people knew me anyway, because of course I would have met them
through social events.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but for the most part, it was a while before people knew, and then when people did find out, they, then everybody tells everybody, oh yeah, that's Shane's wife. Yeah.
And have you worked long enough that people know Shane as that's Faith's husband?
Well, it happened once for the first time about a month ago. And said, "You're Faith's husband, aren't you?" They said it to Shane.
Yeah.
They said, "Oh, you're Faith's husband, aren't you?" And I was quite surprised, because I figured it would take a lot longer than that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I laughed when it happened. But.
Yeah. And I guess, do you feel pressure by having that association with like Shane, someone who's worked there for a long time, that you kind of taking upon his name? Do you feel like you have to maintain a reputation?
Well, I wouldn't want to do anything that would have any effect on the reputation of either Shane or Dean.
Right.
Because people still talk. Even last night, people were asking me. It's one of the guys that I was working with was asking me about Dean, which I will tell him about later. Yeah. But he was asking me how he was doing and stuff like that. And I would never want to do anything that would put any kind of tarnish on their name.
Right.
Because I still carry the Johnson name.
Right.
So.
And does that I guess that carries a lot of responsibility, maybe in some sort.
Yeah, I would say. I mean, I would hope that I'm not the type of person normally anyway that it would be too difficult for me to try not to do anything wrong. Like, that would, put any kind of smudges there. But I would hope that, that I wouldn't be that type of person anyway. So it's hard to tell.
Yeah. Nowadays, it's really hard to get into the union. It's almost impossible without having some sort of connection. So, would that be a question that someone, if you're new, be like, oh, how did you, get into the union? Or
yeah, well, I mean, everybody asks, at some point in your career there, oh, well, how did you get down here? Who do you know? That kind of stuff. Yeah. In the 1,000 application, though, it wasn't all people that knew.
Okay.
One of my close friends down there, she didn't know she wasn't related to anybody down there.
And she just applied.
Yeah, and I know a number of people that are like that.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay.
So.
That's nice.
It is. Yeah. It is. I mean, it's, we're so huge now, right? There's so many more people now than there was a number of years ago. But we have the work to sustain that number of people. So.
Yeah. And have you noticed any preferential treatment of maybe sons or daughters of members?
Not that I'm aware of.
Not aware of? Yeah.
No. But I probably wouldn't notice anyway. Yeah. I wouldn't pay attention to anything like that anyway, so not that I'm aware of.
Yeah. So Shane mentioned that because he is Dean's son, if a foreman liked him, he would have maybe given Shane a better job.
Oh, yeah? Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm wondering if you ever...
I've never experienced that, actually.
Yeah.
Because Shane's has different ratings than I, right? He hasn't been a checker for many, many years. Yeah. And so most people actually that I work with as checkers now, most of them didn't know he was a checker, for example. He's a machine operator. Yeah. And so I've never experienced that myself, that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
I mean, that's sort of the best answer I can give you, because I'm not aware of it.
Yeah.
I like to think that,
Well, Shane said that was only like when he first started.
Yeah. There's so many people. I think it would be pretty hard for them to remember who is with who.
The kind of the kinship.
Yeah. Because there's Johnsons down there that have no relation to us whatsoever.
And do you get asked sometimes, so are you related
to... all the time. All the time.
Yeah. So
our son will be the same, because our son is down there now. So.
Yeah. So kinship's a pretty big deal. I heard some people and some families have more than 10 people.
There is one family that I can think of. I believe they have 40 people down there.
40 people?
But they're a very large family. So,
right.
Yeah. And that's many generations.
Right.
So, yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Big family.
Yeah. So, what are the few questions that you'd get asked when you meet someone, or you'd ask someone, maybe you're working in a gang and you've never met this person before? How do you guys break the ice?
Usually you give your name.
Right.
And one of the biggest questions we always ask each other is, well, what board are you on?
Oh.
Right.
Okay.
Because then that gives you an idea of why maybe you haven't met them before, or, and then you ask them sort of, well, what ratings do you have, or whatever. Those are common questions that we ask each other when we, first meet them. Besides, how are you, and stuff like that.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
And so when you ask these questions, I guess you're trying to see where they fit, on the board.
And why you haven't, maybe met them before, or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things, if you really have never, because as I mentioned, when you see somebody new coming into the hall, you can see that their face, you've never seen it before. Yeah. So if you have somebody that comes into your gang that you've actually never seen their face before, you want to find out if they've never done the job before. So that's why you ask.
Maybe it's for safety reasons.
Well, it is, because we want to make sure that they know what they're doing, they're going to be safe, and that everybody goes home at the end of the day.
Right.
And that's what we want.
Right. And as someone, it seems you've worked a lot for checking. Would you ever get buddied up with someone who's has lower experience
in checking?
Yeah.
It's all about when we pick our jobs, when we get out there. And so sometimes, if I'm working, say, Canopy, I might be working next to somebody who is brand new.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Yeah. It's, and we like to help each other out.
Yeah.
If somebody has a question, ask a question. We'll answer the question.
Yeah. And so when you start working, I guess people easily took you under their wings if you're doing a labor job and...
Well, often when you're doing labor, you're working with people around you on the board, though, right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
But if you have questions, if you're brand new, you let the foreman know, look, this is my first time doing the job.
Yeah.
Make sure that they know. Make sure that people are aware. You don't know, because you want to know how to do the job. You don't want to go in acting like you know it, because safety. It's all about safety, especially if you're doing labor, because you're walking in down below where you have to be very careful. If you don't know what you're doing, and you want to make sure that you get out of the bite where you're in a safe spot and that kind of stuff. And if people don't know you've never done it before, they can't help you.
Right.
Right. So, and it's always good to ask or to let people know, look, this is my first time.
Yeah. Were you, I guess, in longshoring, I guess people will tell each other, oh, hurry up, you're doing too slow. Did you hear some of that when you first started?
I don't think it changes for anybody. I think at some point, everybody hears it. Almost hurry up, come on, we want to get this done. Even to people who've been down there a long time, it still happens.
Okay.
Hurry up, come on, we want to go. We want to get this done. This ship's got to go. It's got to tie up. It's got to untie. It's whatever. Yeah. So. Yeah, it happens to everybody.
Okay, still.
yeah, that doesn't change. But I think that's in any work sector.
Yeah.
Right? That, let's go. Come on. I need that project in. I need, it's probably the same for you, right? I need this by a certain time, and that's, the same expectations.
But is there any teasing? I'm going faster than you doing this?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. It took me this much time to do that. How come it's taking you so long? Of course, that's normal.
Yeah. And that in the workplace, right? Just joking.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, that definitely happens.
Yeah. But I guess if you were starting, you might be a little nervous, right? These people are telling me.
Well, people, I think, you aren't necessarily going to be teasing the people that you don't know very well, right? Like, I mean, if somebody was brand new and they didn't know what they were doing, you wouldn't do something like that, because that would make it all that harder for them to, because they'd be too busy concentrating, okay, I gotta go faster. Yeah. And then you're not safe.
Right.
And ultimately you want everybody to be safe. Yeah. It still comes down to safety first.
Yeah. So, but you're joking around people that you know.
Yeah, for the most part. Right. I mean, some people tease, but it's all about making sure that people get home.
Yeah.
It really, I mean, we hear it repetitively. We want to make sure everybody gets home.
Yeah.
Right? Because it is a dangerous job.
Yeah.
Right? I've been at work where they've had air ambulances come in, stuff like that. Yeah. So people can get hurt.
Very badly.
Very, very badly. Yeah.
Did you get any advice from Shane or Dean, or maybe some of Shane's friends, about starting off longshoring?
Yeah, I got lots of advice.
Yeah?
Yeah. Mostly from Shane. I can't recall if Dean ever gave me advice. In my memory. But Shane still gives me advice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shane's my go-to. Yeah. If I have any questions, Shane's still my go-to.
Yeah. What type of advice would he give you? Would he be like, watch out for that, mean foreman?
Well, the foremen change, right?
Oh, okay.
So, the ones that were mean, they're not there anymore.
Okay.
Like they've since retired.
Yeah.
No, it's more of in doing the job. Easier, safer ways to do the job, stuff like that. Okay, yeah. You really should try this or whatever. Or if you're going to do this, like every day that I go to the hall and I get labor, I always let him know what I'm doing. Right? It's just it's a communication thing we do, and he'll say, okay, well, I've never done this before. Yeah. Not so much now, but back before when I first started. Okay, I've never done this before. Where do I go? What do I do? And, he'll give me advice and what's the best way to do it. Especially as a machine operator, if I was going to be signalman or something like that, he would give me advice on how to do the job and what's best for the machine operator as well. So.
Yeah. Do you ever worked at the same time with Shane?
Oh, yes. Yes, I have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been his dockman when he was an RMG.
What's an RMG?
Yeah, rail-mounted gantry.
Okay.
Yeah, I was his dockman on the rail. It was my job to put the stackers in the can and lock the stackers up. He worked me pretty hard.
Yeah?
Yes, he did. Yeah, he definitely kept me moving.
Yeah.
And he did get teased about it later.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not by me, by his foreman. So, yeah.
That was... one time only? Oh.
I have been his checker before.
Yeah.
But that's a little different than being labor for him.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, he doesn't really, when I was checking, because he's been out of checking for so long.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah.
Yeah. Do you kind of see that with your family members are working together, that they're a little bit harder on each other or tease each other more?
Well, of course they tease each other more.
Yeah.
I don't know, because I've never really truly paid attention to that.
Yeah.
I just know he worked me really hard. And I tease him about it still.
Yeah.
I can't believe he did that to me. So
and were people, and I guess you were working with a group of other people, did they tease you too? Because
one of the guys on my board, he comes up to me the next day, he says, I thought about coming over and helping you. He says, because boy, he was working you fast. I said, yeah. I said, just so you know, that was my husband that did that to me.
Oh, so he didn't know that, no.
He didn't know it was my husband driving at that point. He starts laughing.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So, No, he gets more teasing about it than I do because he's the one that was doing it, right?
Yeah.
Testing to see if I could do the job.
Right.
I passed.
Yeah. And does that happen often? Testing, tease, like, I guess teasing comes, a form of teasing is testing, I guess.
No, I mean, I think for Shane, it was just, Shane's a good driver, and he does drive fast anyway.
Yeah, he mentioned in his interviews.
Yeah. So, you know, I think the perception is most people would think that the husband would be, you know, he's going to take it maybe a little easier, slow down a little. But Shane wouldn't do that. That's not Shane, and I wouldn't want him to do that. You know, as much as I tease him about it, and how you worked me so hard, you know, I wouldn't have wanted it any other way, because it's nice to know he thinks I'm capable, and that's a huge thing, is to know, you know,
that you get respect.
That's right.
Yeah.
You know, and respect is earned, right? You're not entitled. It has to be earned.
Right. So. Right. And along with you know, respect, what makes someone like a good like what other ways is respect earned in the union?
Well, I mean, it's respect is earned by doing your job, doing it properly. You know, I
guess doing it well.
You know, people won't respect you if you're not doing your job.
Yeah.
Because you want to, I mean, you have to work with these people, you know, generally the people around you for many, many years.
Right.
And you wouldn't want to be that person that doesn't work hard, that everybody goes, oh, I don't want to work with them because they don't work as hard as this other person might. Right. So it's, I mean, but again, that's in every job, every field. You're going to get some people, if you're working in a group on some project, you're going to want to make sure that everybody else is doing their part and that you're not going to have to go check up on them after.
Right.
And I think it's, you know, it's, while longshoring is a unique industry, there's still certain aspects of it that fall as the same as every other industry that there is. You know, we're just a little bit different.
And I guess, you know, if you're a bully too, you know, at work,
I've never experienced that, but I would imagine that word would get around that, you know, that person, watch out, they're a bully or whatever. Yeah.
And I guess, do you still go to the Longshore Hall to get dispatched?
I still have to go to the hall. Like I went yesterday to get dispatched, and I happened to get a checker instead of labor. And I got called back for tonight, so I'm called back. So I don't have to go to the hall today.
Yeah.
But if I want to work tomorrow, I will have to go to work for day shift tomorrow.
Yeah.
So.
And when you're in the hall, what type of things do people talk about?
Just your everyday run-of-the-mill, what everybody else talks about when you get together, you know. Well, what did you do on the weekend or whatever?
Yeah.
Did you work? How much? Well, granted, we do. How many days did you work last week?
Yeah.
That's a big part of our conversation. You know, or what job did you do? Because, I mean, that's a variety, right? You know, you're talking to a laborer in the hall who only does labor. Oh, well, what did you get yesterday? Oh, well, I got down below steel. Oh, well, what kind of steel is it? Because there's so many different types of steel. So then you can prep yourself. Okay, I know I'm getting down below steel today. Oh, it's finger pipe. Okay, that's okay.
Okay, right. And I'm sure some people give you advice, maybe, if you've never worked.
Yeah, some people would probably.
Yeah.
It depends on if they know you or not.
Yeah. So I guess in longshoring, there's so many things you could say to break the ice, you know, like...
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you know, you can sit around, sometimes you sit around with a lot of people and the conversation is, okay, what was your worst day longshoring? You know, what was your best job longshoring, right? And that's a huge thing, because then everybody tells a story, and then from that, you can gain the perspective of what they think is a horrible job, right? Or you might think, oh, well, that's not so bad. You should got to hear what I did. And everybody you know, the bigger fish story.
Yeah. So what was your worst job?
My worst job, and it was only my worst job because it was nonstop. I was working a graveyard shift. And a graveyard shift is a 6.5-hour shift. And we ended up the ship wasn't finished. We had to keep working. An extension, and it was about 10 hours of lashing. It was pretty rough. It was lashing.
Working outside, right?
Well, it's working outside, and it's not the outside. It's heavy bars that you're putting into containers.
Yeah.
And then locking them down.
Oh, so you're physically.
It was physical. A lot of physical. Those bars are heavy. They're 40 to 70 pound bars that you're hanging into containers. Yeah. And so you're hanging them in there and then locking them up. There was really no break in there. It was not consistent, non-stop working. And so that was probably my hardest shift. Because by the end of that, my arms were pretty sore. They were pretty, So, but I mean, I've done some down below steel where, but that one, that's got to be the worst one, is that shift, because it was so exhausting.
Yeah, and you had pressure to get it done.
Because the ship needed to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was, they were trying to get all the containers on so that they could get it out of there.
Yeah.
And we had to get them lashed down. You have to have them lashed down before they can go out to sea.
How many people were working with you?
I think there was 4 gangs that day. So 4 times 6 is 24.
24 people working at once.
Yeah. Yeah, on different bays of the ship.
Oh,
Ships
right.
are huge, right?
Right, yeah.
So you have 24 people all working, and you're working with your partner on one side of a stack of containers, and then your other part of your gang, 2 others are on the other side. So you've got 4 people working on one row of containers.
Right.
Plus you've got 2 stackermen on the dock.
Yeah.
So that's your gang.
Yeah. When
we go back to the gang system. So you're working with one person, and you guys are, and it was pretty tough. It was a lot of lashing.
Yeah.
So very physically demanding, and some of the jobs can be extremely physically demanding, and that was probably the worst as far as that went. I mean, down below on wire rod can be quite challenging, but that was definitely probably.
Yeah. Would you say that as you go through the boards, depending on your ratings, jobs can be less physically demanding? Because I guess if you have a rating, you have to service it.
Yeah, you have to service your rating. So, as I've moved up the boards, I get my rating more and more.
Yeah. Labor
less and less.
Yeah.
But it'll come in where there'll be months where I have to do a lot of labor, and then I'll be checking a lot again. Okay. It's the nature of it, and it depends on how busy it is. And obviously, with Christmas coming, you get more ships coming in, bringing in more cargo so that the consumers here can get what they want for Christmas.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty neat. You kind of know the consumption habits of people,
It's pretty high.
Yeah.
We're putting a lot of containers through every day.
Does that amaze you about how much we're consuming?
It used to.
Yeah.
It's sort of
normal now.
Yeah. But when I first started down there, it was quite shocking to me. The number of containers that come through, and all those containers are full of commodity.
Yeah.
Right? Either going out of our country or coming into our country.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So, and we're a super port. We're a big port. Yeah. So of course we do see a lot of commodity, but there's a lot of containers down there.
Yeah. As a woman, when you work with other women, is it easier for you to make a connection with them?
Yes, I would think so. I think it's just a natural thing to sort of women kind of gravitate towards other women. But you can't just be like only women together kind of thing down there, because our percentage is quite low.
Right.
Right. Numbers wise, like 10 or 12%, whatever that was that they determined it was at one point. I would imagine that number has probably changed a bit. You would definitely, cut yourself off if you were just,
talking to women.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of them.
That's right. Yeah, there's a lot of men. You work with a lot of men, so.
Yeah. And for women, are there jobs that they tend to gravitate more to, like different ratings, or it's all the same, doesn't matter?
I would say that you see a lot of women in the check-in categories, both at Fraser Surrey and at Deltaport. But there's a lot of women multi-drivers as well. We don't, as far as topside and gantry though, as far as I know, gantry we only have one woman driver at Deltaport, as far as I know. But men, we have a lot of gantry drivers that are men, and women are doing the RTG, which is the smaller gantry, the rubber tire gantry. So, yeah, I guess there is some gravitation towards checking and multi, but we do have a lot of women who are forklift drivers as well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But again, our numbers are low.
Yeah.
Right. Relatively low.
Yeah.
I mean, in an industry where there was no women at one point, that 10-12% or whatever the percentage is now that's a huge thing.
Yeah. Do you see the union trying to hire more women?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's women coming in all the time.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Is there like an active thing, kind of, we want to encourage more women on the waterfront, or?
I wouldn't know. That would be a behind the scenes that I would have no access to. So.
I watched the video, Women on the Waterfront.
Oh, dear. Okay. Yeah.
Who was in charge of that?
Well, the BCMEA put that on.
Yeah.
But from our local, Crystal Januszewski, she's the one that gathered people from our end to get them on the video from 502. Yeah. But that's
all West Coast.
All the West Coast. So.
Yeah. Do you is there a women's committee at the the union?
Well, there used to be a ladies auxiliary.
Yeah.
But I'm not aware of a women's committee down there. But I mean, we have women on the executive and stuff like that. So.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of women that are involved.
Yeah, that's good. So, how do you usually get to work?
I drive my car.
You drive your car? Yeah. Do you ever go with Shane, like drive together? Or?
We have. Yeah. But Shane and I mean, not now because Shane is doing a different job now, but down there that we're not at the same dock. But we work different shifts often.
Right.
So, if we're working different shifts, no, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So no, we don't really carpool much, or didn't carpool much.
Right.
We just take our own cars.
Yeah.
So.
I guess parking must be very hectic. Finding a parking spot.
Oh yeah. Especially at the hall.
Yeah.
You make sure you get there early enough to get a good parking spot. Yeah.
And what if you can't? I guess you just park on the side, or
you park wherever you can.
Yeah.
That you're allowed to park, but yeah. It's a lot of cars at once in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you go to union meetings?
I can't. I'm not a union member.
Oh, that's right.
I'm a casual.
Yeah. So, how many years do you think it's going to take you to make membership?
I don't know. And I try not to contemplate it too much. Yeah. I mean, we talk about it and stuff at the hall. Other people that are at the same sort of level as I am. But I try not to contemplate it too much because then it's just like, well, that's going to take a long time.
It's kind of stressful maybe to think about.
Yeah, it's years down the road.
Yeah.
So I'll just take one board at a time.
Yeah. And just for my understanding, for someone to make membership, someone has to retire, right? Who's a member is
in essence, yeah. Someone's got to retire. So. Yeah. To make room, because we only have so many members. We only have space for so many members, right?
Right.
I mean, you only need so many members at a time.
Yeah.
So you have to have room in there in order for somebody else to come in.
Yeah. So when Dean started working in 1960s, it only took them 6 years. But why do you think it's taking so long? I heard up to 15 years now.
Yeah, well, I mean, it took Shane a long time.
Yeah.
Like, he was not in 6 years. He was a casual a long time.
Yeah, he told me, like, maybe 10 years, like 11 years.
Yeah. What happens is work has a factor in it, the amount of work. If there's no work, then you're not. The people have to keep working, right? And I mean, if people don't retire, you have times where, like, at one point, everybody that came in was all the same age in essence. They were all, 18 when they started, or 17, whatever it was. And they say they were 18 when they started. And so they would all retire at the same time.
Yeah.
So then you'd have a whole bunch retire. But then you'd have a big gap before the next set of retirement, right?
Yeah.
And if there's not work, they don't want to expand membership because then there's not enough work to go around, right? And you need to be able to support the people. So they buy houses, they have children, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So.
So it is there also a set amount of hours that you have to work to make membership, or is it just it's just the board?
It's seniority.
Seniority.
Yeah. It's you start on surplus or T board and work your way up, and you get on A board, and then it's as people retire or whatever, the top senior people get screened to go in.
Right. Is T board and surplus board the same thing?
No,
they're different.
Yeah, surplus is below T board.
Okay.
And that's something that's newer now. Surplus. So.
Yeah. Why did they have a surplus board?
Because we need them. We need the people, but you've only got so many room to put what we call plates.
Yeah.
In. There's just only so much room. So then you have a surplus where, you put your man number on a ticket, and if there's enough work, then it comes to you guys, and then they take them. So.
Do you hang out with your coworkers after work?
Sometimes. I mean, you're working a lot of hours.
Yeah, I imagine being very tired.
I do a lot of afternoon shift. That's predominantly my preference, shift of preference. So I leave here at, depending on if I have to go to the hall, I have to leave here at 2.
Yeah.
So, and then I work till 1 o'clock in the morning. So by the time I get home, it's 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
So there's not many places you can go at that time. Yeah. And then, I come home and I wake up and, you get ready for the day, and by then it's time to go to work.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of time outside of work, but I mean there's a lot of time at work. You've got lunch and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So.
And do people go out for lunch, or do they eat on the ship, or?
Well, you don't eat on the ship generally. When it depends on what dock you're at.
Yeah.
But we have lunchrooms.
Okay.
Yeah. To leave from the docks to go out it takes too long.
Yeah.
Some people will run into town quickly, but then it takes them that whole lunchtime, and they come back and they have to eat really quickly.
Yeah.
So.
Do you ever see crewmen?
Yes.
Yeah.
All the time.
All the time?
Yeah. Because they're on the ship, right? And so if you're working on the ship, you see them all the time. They're there.
And do you interact with the crewmen, or maybe not you, but does like the gang?
Generally, for the most part, there's not a whole lot of interaction, unless you need them to do something, and generally the foreman will direct, tell them what you need or whatever. So, if I've been a hatch tender, can you open that cover so I can go into the hatch? But other than that, there isn't a lot of interaction that way.
Yeah, I heard of stories of retired longshoremen who partied with the sailors.
Oh yeah, I can believe that. Yeah, I mean, because they do get off, right?
Yeah.
And I think they have shuttles or something for them.
Oh, okay.
Right, if they need to go into town or whatever.
I thought they were stuck on the ship for.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think that they have, because I know that one of the docks has this. Actually, all the docks probably have some type of seaman center.
Okay, nice.
Right, so that they can go and. I don't know what goes on in there. I've never been in there, so I really don't have a whole lot of information on that. But
it's probably nice for them to go on land.
Well, and I would think that, especially if they've never been to like Canada before, it'd be kind of cool to go, to a souvenir shop or something. So, but I don't know. I honestly don't know what happens. So.
Yeah. So, what are things that you like about longshoring?
Oh boy. Well, I like the flexibility of longshoring. I like the people I work with. I like the job is not the same every day.
Yeah.
It's a great job. There's a lot of things that I like about it, but what stands out in my mind the most is probably the flexibility and the fact that it's never the same job. Even if you're doing technically the same job, it's not necessarily going to be the same job. Yeah. Like I said, there's so many things that can change the factor of, I could be working on the same ship with the same crew, but it could be something completely different the next day.
Yeah.
So.
And what do you dislike about longshoring?
What do I dislike about longshoring? I don't know that I really have something specific that I'd say, oh man, I wish they didn't have this. I can't think of anything offhand. Wasn't really prepared for that either.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything offhand.
Maybe bad weather sometimes. But that's not longshoring.
Well, it is part and parcel, right? Because, we are we're laborers outside.
Yeah.
That's what we do. I guess the day that it was snowing down below on Steel, that was pretty rough.
Yeah. Have you heard of any harassment on the waterfront?
What do you mean?
And maybe like harassment against women or.
I haven't, but I wouldn't necessarily be privy to that anyway.
Yeah.
Right. I am a casual.
Yeah.
Right. So I wouldn't necessarily be privy to that. Nobody that I know has been harassed. Right. So I wouldn't really know.
Yeah. Yeah. Keep forgetting questions I want to ask you. Has the union striked ever since you started? Been on strike?
No, see now it's sort of melding together because Shane and I have been married a long time.
Yeah.
And I've been with him the entire time he's been a longshoreman. I don't think since I've been down there they've been on strike. I don't think so.
No.
I think it's all blending together.
Yeah.
I don't think not since I've been down there.
No. Have you ever thought about wanting to strike? Or not wanting, because Shane said that he would like to strike.
Would he?
Yeah, so he can tell stories.
Oh, well, see, I couldn't anyway because I'm a casual.
Oh, right.
So
yeah,
it's not. I don't get a chance to vote on anything like that. So, yeah. My husband.
Do you hear stories from like when you're working, from senior longshore workers? You're like, back in the day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a story. And some of them are exaggerated and stuff, but everybody's got stories.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they like to tell them. Usually, people tell you a story, like, for example, they'll tell me stories about Shane, that kind of thing. But,
oh, really?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And when Shane started, they told stories about Dean, and, it's just,
Oh, I'm guessing they only told you about Shane because you're his wife.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, you know what Shane did. Yeah, I know.
That must be kind of fun.
It can be. Yeah. Then you come home and say, guess what I heard about you today? Yeah.
Yeah. And now your son, he just started?
He's doing his last day of training today.
Yeah. And are you proud that he's taking upon longshoring?
I am. Yeah. He's third generation now.
Yeah.
Right? So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, and I guess I guess he wanted to do this since he was young?
Yeah, actually from very young, both of our sons. So yeah. So today is his last day of training and it becomes official, so.
Yeah. Have you and Shane given him advice?
Yes. Or? Well, I don't know about Shane, but I have. always have advice for
him. So
yeah, poor guy.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
You might work with him.
I might work with him. Yes, there is a possibility that I could work with him.
Yeah. That would be really interesting.
It would be. I actually look forward to the day. It would be quite interesting to actually work with him in that capacity.
Yeah.
I mean, it will be very interesting. I look forward to that day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess Shane doesn't because he works at the. Does he work at Delta Port?
No, he's at the Coal Port.
Oh, the Coal Port, yeah.
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 So, it's highly unlikely he will ever work with our son.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't foresee that happening. Yeah, I can't, because I mean, while I've worked for Shane, I've never worked with him either.
Oh, I see.
Right, I worked as his dockman.
Yeah.
So I was working for him, doing stuff for him, but I've never done stackers with him or slings with him or anything like that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Do you feel nervous for him at all?
Not nervous, but I know what it's like when you start.
Yeah.
So the memories are there, and so but he'll do fine.
Yeah.
He'll do fine.
Yeah. So will he be known as Shane's son or Faith's son or Dean's grandson?
It'll probably be Shane's son.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people at the hall now, of course, because Dean is retired, the ones at the hall would be mostly casuals.
Oh, right, so they wouldn't know
They
Dean.
probably wouldn't know Dean. It'd be the other members that may ask.
Yeah.
Once they figure out who he is. But no, he's I think he's already even in his training. Shane's son. Yeah. So, I did talk to one of his trainers. And so,
And I'm sure they're going to tell him stories too.
Oh, yes. I'm sure they already have. Because now they both got his dad and his mom.
Yeah, and maybe his grandfather.
Yeah.
One of my questions was about striking, but I guess they don't do that. But I guess there hasn't been a strike recently.
No, not recently.
Yeah.
I can't remember what year that last contract was. April 2010. So no, not in my time as a longshoreman.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've been around because of Shane.
Yeah.
Right. So gives me a little bit more insight to it. But
yeah. I think that is all the questions that I had. Is there anything else you would like to say? Or?
Not that I can think of offhand. I think you covered it pretty good.
Yeah.